Yes, this deck will be available. Ash, do you want to take the next one from Matt Yunkel?
Can you?
Matt said that's a good cadence for check-in with leads who've gone quite quiet since COVID-19.
So the best way I think to nurture leads that have gone quiet is constantly delivering value. So this can be, having a campaign that's sharing, new product advancements and how you can address like pains that they're facing that are renewed sort of through COVID. So let's say you're selling a fintech product and you're selling it to large Fortune 500s. With COVID-19, there's a huge focus now on future of work. There's a huge focus on microfinance. So being able to send new white papers or new webinars that you put out, new content, and keep nurturing those recycled leads. So that's a great way to re-engage them. And another way is also, I've seen a lot of startups, they'll have messaging and new campaigns focusing on directly how their product's related to COVID. So just constantly showing these clients that you're there to provide value as an advisor rather than just trying to sell them something immediately.
Yeah, just to add on top of that, I haven't reached out to anyone to say, how can I help you? But I've actually come out and given them a piece of information based on, what their role is and what their company's going through, and just saying, hey, this is what I'm hearing. Let me know if you actually want to talk more about this. And I've seen nothing but good responses. And so, really being able to just share knowledge is really important right now. And that's how you can align yourself to be that trusted partner. So thanks, Matt, for the question. Paul has a follow-up question, and Ash, I'll read it because I know you can't see it. What is the proper way to articulate the failures of that competitor in light of this situation? To be honest, I think that people want to hear positivity right now, rather than, talking about anyone's failures. But if you think that's, imperative, I would never mention that company. I would kind of come at it in a way that, we know that these are the shortfalls. I wouldn't even mention that it's a competitor or necessarily a company, but actually saying, here's where, people have fallen short and this is how we solve it, without even necessarily kind of getting too specific. Because look, this COVID situation has illuminated a lot of failures, and that's kind of why companies have reacted in the way that they have, by being super agile and introducing new technology where it's necessary. So, I think it's very clear that that is a problem. I just think it's, important to be empathetic even to, that competitor in this time, because you never know what somebody's going through. Ash, feel free to add on top of that.
Yeah, so there's actually data from Gong.io, their hyper growth startup in conversational AI, but the data shows that the earlier you mention your competitors, the higher propensity a deal is to close. The way you can do that with empathy is, rather than drilling down and sort of insulting your competitor, you can talk to your prospect that, hey, these guys, our competitors, they're really great at addressing this pain, but we can address that pain as well as many other pains, and even do it a little bit more effectively, even at a lower cost. So you don't want to, completely or maliciously undermine your competitor, but it is very important to bring them up in early discussions. And the way you can do that with empathy, like I mentioned, is really being honest and saying, as a trusted advisor, saying these are their strengths, but this is how we differ.
I love that, Ash.
Perfect. We actually have a few questions on the Q&A. One of them is, do you have experience using Salesforce as an outreach method?
So Salesforce is one of the most popular CRMs or customer relationship management platforms for growth stage companies. A lot of startups will use HubSpot. Both HubSpot and Salesforce have a email campaign functionality. The reason why Outreach or Apollo or Yesware might be better for a sales cadence is Salesforce has less functionality for scheduling each touch point, using omni-channel and the various social media and digital engagement channels. So you can use Salesforce for email and drip campaigns, but there's definitely a huge return on investment if you evaluate more sales engagement platforms.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Ash. I think Salesforce is my favorite CRM, but in terms of when you're getting outbound messaging and you really want this stuff to look natural and be personalized and have an omni-channel sales cadence, I think the other sales enablement tools just have a lot better capabilities for that. So I know it's more expensive, but making that investment early on definitely will help you in the long run.
But now more than ever, having a sense of data hygiene and keeping every single point of interaction for your sales team or your founding team in one CRM or customer relationship platform is essential in this time, because 3 months from now, you're going to be looking at the pipeline you created during COVID that you're ready to sort of ignite. And if you don't have that data, you're missing out on, potentially millions of revenue because of that lack of data hygiene, right?
Perfect. And we have a question from Lanston. He asks about regarding to sales messaging, what is the perspective on cold outreach and what does leading with empathy sound like?
So I can give an example and Jacob can share one, but I'll often start with, I hope you and your family are doing safe in these difficult times. And when I'm even reaching out to healthcare, the healthcare industry, the insurance industry, I'll even thank them for their support in helping to alleviate the crisis. So everyone is playing a role in alleviating this crisis throughout the value chain. And most industries are working together to solve this, right? So showing that empathy in the beginning of that cold outreach is key. Jacob, do you have any other thoughts there?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'm reaching out to banks, and these banks are trying to turn around small business loans. And I've spoken to people who are working 17-hour days to get this turnaround. And this is really important in stimulating the economy, and so they're playing a huge role. And so I don't think that these people necessarily have time to just jump on the phone and hear the plug and play pitch. But if I come to them and say, hey, I've spoken to a ton of lenders and I've spoken to a bunch of startups that are actually disrupting this lending space. Here's some information that I know is relevant to you. And then again, thanking them. I know that you're super busy. I know that you're, maybe even dealing with your own stuff going on. But I think that this can help. And so rather than kind of selfishly talking about what your product is, even just giving them a piece of information that, you think you can help them with that ties into your product at the end of the day is really going to, again, create that bond and that partnership rather than just a salesperson to a customer.
Okay, perfect. Here's another one. Can you give an example of how do you use empathy and personalization to connect with insurance companies? I guess that's for Ash, or financial institutes for Jacob that you work with during COVID-19.
Jacob, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't have to think too much into it, right? And so when we say address the elephant in the room, it can be one line at the top. Hey, I'm sure you're super busy, or I know, you're dealing with, what everyone is dealing with, right? You're dealing with it, they're dealing with it. So these are things that, I think we have to address, but then kind of quickly moving into, whatever it is, the kind of meat of your email, and then closing up with that call to action to say, if you do have time, we'd love to jump on the call for 10, 15 minutes. People don't have too much to do, so I've even had a lot more meetings over the weekend. So I think it's really just about being really clear and how you can give them a hand at this time, and then kind of moving to that call to action.
And in regards to, insurance companies in particular, for property and casualty insurers, claims are going down. Their customers are taking out less claims on less assets. So first of all, acknowledging the elephant in the room, acknowledging that we're all in this together, and you hope that they're safe and their family's doing well. But then going into, we understand that there's this sort of change in the paradigm, where there's this new renewed need to have a data-driven focus on underwriting and sort of addressing how your company can help them deal with that new paradigm for property and casualty insurers. And for health insurers, net loss ratio is taking a hard hit with the coronavirus crisis. So really addressing how can you lower their costs for improving patients' lives and really use a your company's innovation to address those challenges, right? So like the prior slide in the presentation, having a clear premise that can build resonance for who they are as a person and their psychology as a buyer, and mentioning the struggle we're going through in COVID, and having a clear value proposition targeting the pains they're going through as a large insurer with the lower amount of assets being covered by their insurance vehicles, right?
Thanks for that. And another question, what percentage of positive response do your typical cadence do you consider a success?
So for the cadence I mentioned earlier, it's omni-channel. So it'll be social selling on LinkedIn, it'll be on email, and it'll be on phone or other channels. So for email, our team has seen ideal success rate as 30 to 40% of the leads will open the email, and 10 to 20% of those leads will respond. And out of those 10 to 20% responses, 5 to 10% will become sales qualified opportunities. So you can consider as if you reach out to 100 or 200 leads and you put them through that cadence on each channel, you're looking to get 5 to 10 qualified meetings. And based on how your company can look for conversion, if it's 20% conversion, two of those 10 qualified opportunities should ideally convert to closed won revenue.